Hi, good evening. My name is Hilik. I'm Jewish, a deplorable Jew that actually believe in Bible and everything that happened. Since, let's say, 300 years ago, God brought a lot of pandemic on human because we just lost them. And God always tried to bring us back on a good way and a good life. Therefore, he get rid of all the bad stuff that human did. Um, let's say the first pandemic was the flood of Noah. God totally destroyed whatever it was created because just people were not doing good. So it took 100 years for Noah to build the ark to save whatever left and whatever God wanted from humanity and his creatures. And the story is known. There is no doubt about it that the flood happened and the whole earth was covered by water. We know that. And of course, many millions or whatever people that they were living there, they died. That was 3,300 years ago. Then, if we go back actually in the Bible, we look at it at the time that the Jews were in the desert with Moses. There is another pandemic happened because the Jews, they just deliberately were sleeping with Moabian girls, and Pinchas was a guy that basically took his sword, and there were 24,000 people died by God. But he initiated the killing because they were wrong and they were doing good stuff. We can find it actually on Balak, chapter 25, verse 9, that it said about 24,000 people were dead in the camp. Later on in the desert, there were a group of Levites that went against Moses, and they demanded to be serving the God because they thought that Moses colluded with God and left them out. And as we know, God opened the earth, and over 14,700 people died in a second. They all died. All the spies that Moses sent actually to land of Israel to check it out before they went to Israel, they all were there too because they just said bad thing about a God. Now, during the Ahasuerus in Persian is Kashayar Shah. Kashayar Shah was the son of Kurosh. Kurosh, the king of Iran, started building the temple, the second temple. And 4 years later, when his son came along, Kashayar Shah, he was anti-Jew, but he was ruling a lot of 127 countries. The story of Haman and Purim happened, that God changed the wishes of the anti-Semite Haman, and the Jews were celebrating the killing of many people. During that period, actually, God sent snakes and scorpions to kill many people. So everything basically comes from the God. We all know that. We explain about a flood of Noah, okay? Then after that, at the time of Abraham, the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, we know that what happened over there too. God bombarded the city with hail, and the city was totally, in seconds, disappeared from the face of the world. And if you go to Israel, you can go and visit, basically, the location. Still, Nobody lives on that area. Now, during the King David, if you read Samuel 2nd, chapter 24, there were 70,000 people that died immediately, within a day or two, because King David made a mistake and counted the Jews. Jews are not countable. We do not count Jews ever. And that's 2,900 years ago. 2,900 years ago. Of course, we have the 10 plagues that God brought upon Egyptian. During those period, with all the plagues that was going on, single Jew did not die. God knew to separate his people from the dirty one, the Egyptian. Then we're going back to, again, if you read Samuel 2nd, chapter 18 and 19, that's about 2,567 years ago. It was an army general by name Sanherib that attacked Jerusalem. And in one night, over 2,600,000 of his soldiers perished at once. That's another plague that God brought to his people. So pandemic has been around forever. And no one could control it because God controlled it. Now, in the United States, let's go back now. I want to mention that who are the countries that basically have the most died in this pandemic? Triangle. Pandemic started in China. In my opinion, they did it on purpose. This pandemic basically is a biological, psychological war against West and United States by Chinese and globalists. Now, we look at the Chinese do not believe in God. They eat everything that walks on earth. Their China is not great. They're not clean, the most clean people in the world. So the pandemic started in China, and China does not report it, and of course hide and kill the doctors and kill the journalists that try to bring it up. And they allow lots of their friends, Iranian and Italian, to go back to their country. So the second point that it hit is Iran. Iran is the most brutal country in the world after China. Since Iranian regime, the Ayatollah, came out on power with the help of Jimmy Carter and French, they killed over 5 or 6 million of their own people by hanging them, by shooting them. Iran is a very oppressive country. Human life does not have a meaning, exactly like it did not have at Mao time that kills 50 million of Chinese, or Stalin times that killed 70 million of their own people. Human life does not have any value in this country. Ironically, Iran is on the human right of the United Nations, that since its existence brought over 2,000 or 3,000 resolutions against tiny country of Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East that exists, because they are anti-Semite and anti-God. The third point that the virus attack is Italy. China has been buying the world literally. They have a incredible influence with their power that Nixon gave it to them, basically. President of United States to open society, the stupidity of Western not to understand the communist regime of China, Nixon opened the gates. And since then, the greed of American company and the globalists took every industry from United States and transferred it to China just to have some cheap stuff. So figure it out, since 1973, that is about 47 years ago, United States has been buying cheap stuff. So what the hell they saved now? Only the last 3 weeks, United States lost almost, about $15 trillion? I mean, all the cheap stuff that they flooded United States did not pay. It just enriched pocket of people like Biden or Apple or Amazon or companies that really they are globalist and they money is more than human life. I mean, look at it. In Italy, 17,000 people died from the flu. In Israel, 126 people died from a flu. In USA, 40,000 people died from a flu. That's we're talking about pandemic that came at 2009, and there is still no, that's a pig virus that came from Mexico, and we still don't have a vaccine for it. In Italy, the black pandemic killed 1/3 of the population. The black pandemic that was brought to the United States by the European literally diminished all the Indian in the United States. Now, the logic behind the pandemic and the shut down the whole earth is one thing. It's a China takeover of the United States and the whole world. They've been doing that for 47 or 50 years with the help of globalists, and now they found a chance and an opening to activate their biological virus that they created and literally make it to spread around the world. There is a reason for that. It's a political. China wants to take over the world, and literally they are taking around the world. So, the war that we're in it now is basically biological and psychological war. And if you notice, the media and the globalists are behind all that and spreading the fear. Many, many more American and not American will die basically from panic that is a result of what Chinese created. So in my opinion, the President of the United States should declare that the pandemic does not exist and let people start working and bring back the economy to its role, because we cannot afford. Look what's happening in this country. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. There are thousands of people die in traffic accident. Are we going to shut down driving? I mean, that's a natural thing. Pandemic of a natural thing that happened because we just do not give a shit about human life. So a lot of changes going to happen in the United States and around the world. And hopefully I'm going to explain that on my next video. I thank you so much for listening. My name is Hilik. And I'm not God, I'm a human like you.